The docking bay smelled like rust and oil. People walked past her. Some stared. Some looked away fast. No one helped. The girl dragged herself forward, metal scraping against the floor. Her legs weren't real. They were half-broken metal sticks, held together with wires and old clamps. She didn't have shoes. Sparks jumped from one joint when she moved too fast. Her skin was pale gray, marked with dark burns. Her clothes were ripped and stained. One arm was wrapped in dirty bandages. The other hand clutched a small metal chip. It was all she had left. The station lights flickered above her. The place was noisy, crowded, and full of shadows. Aliens, humans, robots, everyone too busy to care. But she kept moving, limping, toward Bay 9. Where someone had told her a human named Jace fixed broken machines, and maybe broken. People too. She reached the door and knocked, once, twice. Then she collapsed. The door opened with a slow hiss. Tall man in grease-stained clothes stood in the doorway. He had short dark hair, tired green eyes, and a metal brace on one leg. His hands were covered in black oil. He didn't speak at first, just looked at her lying there, half-conscious. "I need legs," she whispered, holding out the chip with shaking fingers. I'll trade anything. Even my body. Just give me legs, please." Stepped closer, slowly crouched beside her and took the chip. He looked at it, then looked at her face. She was young, maybe 20 in human years. But her eyes looked older, full of pain and fear. "You're not for sale," he said quietly. She blinked, confused. "What?" "I don't trade people," he said, "especially not ones who've already lost everything." He didn't wait for her reply. He gently lifted her into his arms, careful not to touch the exposed wires on her legs. Light probably hadn't eaten properly in weeks. She didn't resist. She was too tired. Her eyes stayed half open, staring at his face as he carried her inside the workshop. The workshop was warm, lit by soft yellow lights. Tools hung from the walls, old machines, engines, and spare parts sat on every surface. A workbench blinked with a half-built prosthetic arm. On one table, an old photo of 3 children smiled next to a small cactus and a cracked cup. Jace placed her on a padded chair near the heater. "You hungry?" She didn't answer. She just looked at the floor. He handed her a protein bar and a bottle of clean water. She stared at it for a second, then tore the bar open and began eating fast. Like someone who hadn't tasted real food in days. He didn't ask questions. He just watched her carefully, checking her vitals, scanning her legs with a handheld device. "These were built by a slaver crew," he muttered. "Bad work, crude. One power cell's leaking. They should have replaced that." "I was thrown out," she said softly. "They said I was too broken." Jace didn't respond. He pulled a small toolkit from the wall and sat on the floor in front of her. "I can build you new legs," he said, voice calm. "It's better ones, real ones. But it'll take time." "Why?" she asked, frowning. "Why would you do that?" "Because someone once did the same for me." She didn't understand. She leaned back in the chair and closed her eyes. For the first time in a long time, she felt safe, confused but safe. Later that night, she woke to the sound of soft humming. Jace was at the workbench, welding something. Sparks flew as he worked. He looked focused, calm, like the machines were speaking to him. She stood slowly, limping around the room. Her legs shook with each step. She saw a locked drawer near his old storage cabinet. Curious, she bent down and touched the metal. It buzzed. With a faint charge locked tight, but there was a symbol carved into the edge. A military seal. Earth Federation. Underneath, scratched in with a knife. Property of Earth's military refugees. She stared at the drawer, heart beating faster. Why would a simple mechanic have something like that, before she could touch it? Again, Jace's voice came from behind. "You should rest," he said. She turned around fast, startled. But he wasn't angry, just tired. "I didn't mean to snoop," she said. He nodded. "It's okay. You're not a prisoner." She hesitated. "Do you know me?" He looked at her carefully. Not yet, but maybe I did. A long time ago. Asterisk, she woke up crying. Not loud, but silent tears rolling down her cheeks. Sahira didn't know why. The dream was already fading. Flashes of metal halls, screams, a hand reaching for hers. A voice, soft, human, calling her name. Not like a stranger. Like someone who had once held her when she was small. She looked around the small room Jace had given her. It wasn't much, just a cot, a lamp, and a curtain for privacy. But it was warm, and no one here tried to chain her. Her new legs weren't ready yet. She still had to drag herself across the floor on the old ones, the broken ones. But something had changed since that first day, for the first time. She didn't feel like a thing. She pulled herself up and crawled into the main workroom. Jace was already there, sitting at his bench, with his back to her, tuning something. Sparks danced in front of him as he welded smooth silver joints. A pair of mechanical legs, sleek, strong, and elegant, stood upright beside him. They weren't for just walking. These were Exorian-forced, fast, stable, made for someone who needed to run, climb, or fight. She stared at them, her throat dry. "They're yours," he said without turning. "Once they're ready, you didn't have to make them so." "Beautiful." "I didn't build them to be beautiful," Jay said. "Built them so you'd never fall again." She looked down at her own rusted limbs. "I've fallen more times than I can count." He finally turned around and looked at her. "Then it's time you stopped falling." That evening, Sahira connected to the sync chair. It was a standard link-up. It's meant to map her neural patterns so the legs could respond to her thoughts. The helmet slid over her scalp, cold and heavy. She hated this part. It always felt like someone was peeling into her brain. The system booted up. Green light, sync initializing. She closed her eyes. Then something went wrong. The feed was supposed to show a blank grid. Instead, she saw moving images, memories. But they weren't hers. Battlefields. Explosions. Soldiers screaming. Children in cages. Human soldiers dragging injured kids from rubble, alien kids. She saw herself young. Bloody, screaming, and then someone carried her away. The helmet hissed and powered down. Sahira gasped and pulled it off, heart racing. Jace rushed to her. "What happened?" I saw something. A memory, I think. But not mine. Or maybe it was. I don't know." Jace frowned. "That shouldn't happen. The scanner isn't meant to show visuals, just raw data." She looked at him, eyes wide. "I saw you." He froze. "You were in the memory, carrying someone, a child, with silver skin, like mine. She was crying, but she trusted you. She called, 'You safe?'" Jace looked down, jaw tight. "That was a long time ago, so it was real?" He nodded slowly. "During the Collapse War, I was stationed on Virex 9. We were ordered to evacuate only human civilians.
Wow.
But I didn't follow that order. I smuggled out anyone I could, including kids like you." Sahira stared at him, breath-catching. "Then we've met before. You were barely 5, he said, half-conscious. I tried to bring you to safety, but we were separated in the chaos. Later, I searched the lists. You weren't on any, so you thought I was dead. I hoped you weren't. But after all these years," Sahira touched the side of her face. She could still feel the burn from the slaver's shock collar. "I was sold," she said quietly, "to a cyber-modder ring. They replaced my legs, called me a prototype, then tossed me when I broke." Jace didn't speak. His hands curled into fists. Sahira looked at him again. "Do you think this meeting again is fate?" "I don't believe in fate," he said, "but I do believe in making things right." Later that night, Sahira sat alone, staring at the half-finished legs. Jace was asleep in the corner, snoring softly with a wrench still in his hand. He looked tired, even in rest, like someone who carried more than he ever said. She crawled quietly to the locked drawer. That same symbol from before. Earth Federation Military Refugee Division glowed faintly in the dark. Her fingers hovered over the lock. She didn't open it. Instead, she whispered JACE ... "Thank you." Far away, deep in the lower levels of the station, a device blinked to life. Something had connected to a forgotten network. What? An old war beacon. The signal spread slowly quiet, invisible, but not unnoticed. A figure in a black coat looked up. From a terminal. She's alive, he whispered. And someone's trying to fix her. He stood, cracked his neck, and smiled. Not on my watch. Rain echoed through the metal walls of the station. It wasn't real rain, just coolant vapor. It's leaking from an old pipe in the ceiling, but it sounded like Earth. Jace listened to it while tightening a bolt on Sahira's new joints. The artificial legs were nearly finished now. They gleamed under the yellow light, strong, precise, and nothing like the broken scrap she'd worn before. But Jace wasn't smiling. He hadn't smiled much since Sahira told him about the memory of him, long ago, carrying her through the burning streets of Varex. 9. He thought she had died that day. He'd buried that pain for years. Now she was sitting right here alive, scarred, and not a little girl anymore. Sahira watched him from the doorway. She wasn't sure if she should speak. Jace had been quiet since the memory upload. He worked harder, faster, like trying to run away from something in his mind. You haven't slept, she said. I don't need sleep. I need to finish your legs. They'll still work if you rest. He didn't respond. She moved closer. Her metal feet clanked softly on the floor, temporary stilts, until the final pair was ready. You were a soldier, weren't you? She asked. He nodded. Engineer mostly, but in war, everyone becomes a soldier. What happened? After you saved me? He paused, then wiped sweat from his forehead. They arrested me. Disobeying. Orders. I was supposed to let your kind die. Sahira's chest tightened. But you didn't. No, I got 20 kids out. 6 of them made it to Earth. Others, I lost. And me. You vanished, Medivec. I searched everywhere. He looked at her now, finally, eyes tired. I carried your broken body through fire, Sahira. I held your hand until the smoke forced us apart. I thought you were gone. Sahira looked down. I was gone, at least parts of me, that evening. She stood by the workshop window, watching the docking bay. Something had changed inside her since learning the truth. She remembered bits now. Being small, scared, someone lifting her. Someone singing a lullaby soft and broken while fire fell from the sky. That someone had been Jace. She wiped her eyes and turned to him. You saved me once. Why are you doing it again? Because I didn't finish the job the first time, he said without turning. You blame yourself for what happened to me? Yes. She stepped forward. Then stopped blaming. You gave me life when no one else did. You don't owe me more. Looked at her. That's not why I'm helping. Then why? Because when I saw you crawl through that hangar door, offering everything you had just for the chance to walk again, I saw someone who hadn't given up. Even when the universe already had. He paused. That's worth saving. Suddenly, a sharp alarm echoed through the workshop. Jace rushed to the control console. Sahira followed. On screen, a red warning flashed. Unauthorized data trace detected. What is that? She asked. Someone accessed our neural sync logs, Jace said. They know you linked to the military circuit. Who? Jace typed fast, his eyes scanning the lines of code. Then he froze. No, he whispered. On screen a face appeared. Male, bald, sharp eyes. Half his jaw was metal. The signal was weak, but the voice came through clear. Hello, old friend. Sahira felt a chill crawl up her back. Jace's hands tightened on the console. Grath, you've got something I lost a long time ago, the man said. She's not yours, Jace said coldly. She was never yours either. Just a test. Subject valuable tech in a dying world. And now you've woken her up. That was a mistake. The signal cut. Jace turned to Sahira. You need to move now. They packed fast. Jace gave Sahira a cloak and an old blaster. The legs weren't fully ready, but she could walk. Who was he? She asked. Grath, former commander. After the war, he vanished. Took the experimental kids and disappeared. Ran illegal cybermod. Programs. Sold tech. Sold people. So I was one of his? You were the first. The prototype. Sahira's hands shook. What does he want now, Jace said, or what's inside your head? As they stepped into the station's underbelly, hidden among steam pipes and flickering lights, Sahira asked, if I'm a prototype, are there others like me? Jace stopped walking. Yes, he said softly. And if Grath found you, he'll go after them too. Sahira nodded slowly. Then we're not running, she said. We're finding them. Asterisk. The black market was hidden deep in the old levels of the station, where the lights didn't work and law didn't reach. You didn't walk down there unless you had something to trade, something to hide. Sahira walked beside Jace, who'd pulled over her face. Her new legs clicked softly beneath her robe. Not fully finished, but fast enough to run now, strong enough to fight. But still her heart beat faster with every step. She wasn't afraid of being caught. She was afraid of being sold. Again, they passed stalls stacked with weapons, illegal tech, and crates marked unregistered cargo. The air smelled like smoke and fear. Every alien eye that looked at Sahira felt too sharp, too hungry. Jace stayed close. He said nothing, but his body was tense. His right hand never left the grip of his sidearm. They weren't here to shop. They were here for answers. They entered a wide chamber filled with glowing steam vents. A tall, red-skinned merchant sat in the center, surrounded by floating orbs of data. His name was Velox. He was a trader of rare to canned rumors. He looked up as they approached, smirking. Well, well, human ghost and a broken prize come to life. What brings you to my den? We're looking for names, Jace said. Other test subjects. Kids from the Varex experiments. Where are they? Velox laughed, a slow, deep chuckle. And what do I get for sharing such precious data? Jace placed a case of credits on the table. Start talking, Velox looked at the case, then at Sahira. His eyes moved slowly over her. Or, he said with a cruel grin, maybe I'll trade the information for her? Sahira stiffened. Jace stepped forward. She's not for sale. Everything's for sale, Velox replied. Voice cold. Especially old war toys with sweet faces and custom legs. The collectors would pay double. Triple, maybe. Sahira raised her head. Her voice was steady. Try to touch me, and I'll make sure your arms are the next thing Jace upgrades. Velox laughed again, spicy. But then he snapped his fingers. One of his guards stepped forward, holding a long, silver staff electro-charged, illegal on most planets. Jace tensed. We don't want trouble. But you brought it, Velox said. Grath's already looking for her. That means you're now worth something too. The wrong people. If I hand you over, I'll be paid in tech, weapons, even favor. Sahira stepped forward slowly. Then do it, she said. Sell me. See what happens. Jace hissed through his teeth. Sahira, but she didn't stop. She stood tall, her cloak falling back, revealing the sharp chrome of her new legs. They glowed faintly at the joints. Clean, powerful, perfect. I've been sold before, she said. It's beaten. Used. I know how that game ends, but now... She took another step forward, the floor shaking faintly under her boots. Now I'm the one who chooses. Velox studied her for a moment, silent. Then he snapped his fingers again. The guard backed off. Fine, he said, no sale. But I'll give you something else instead of warning. He tossed a data chip onto the table. 3 survivors. He said, one on the mining moon of Beryl 5, another somewhere in the deep farms of Titanus. The third vanished after a failed auction on Crixa. Good luck finding them. Grath will want them back too. Sahira picked up the chip. Why help us? She asked. Velox shrugged. 'Cause you're more interesting loose than chained. Careful, girl. The galaxy doesn't like things that remember where they came from. Back in the upper station levels, Sahira sat in silence while Jace guided the ship's small shuttle toward the surface. Her fingers curled around the chip. 3 survivors, she said softly. That's all that's left. Maybe Jace. Said maybe more. Grath's network is huge. Could have dozens still hidden. Sahira turned to him. Why didn't he come for me himself? He doesn't need to, Jace said. He sends hunters, trackers, mercs. Sahira looked down. Then we don't wait for him to come, we go first. That night, Jace opened a drawer in the ship's side compartment. Inside were maps, old codes, weapons, and a small, dirty toy. A stuffed bird torn, burned, but still intact. Sahira froze when she saw it. I had one like that. She whispered. Jace looked at her. You didn't have one? That was yours? You dropped it when I carried you. Sahira took the toy in her hands. Something cracked inside her chest. Not pain. Something older. Something warmer. I don't know if I'm strong enough for this, she said. You don't need to be strong alone, Jace said. She looked up at him. He wasn't just a mechanic, not just a soldier. He'd become something else now. Family. The sky over Barrel 5 was always red. Dust storms rolled through its markets like waves, choking the air, staining everything the color of dried blood. Sahira stepped out of the shuttle, her new legs crunching down into the sand, cloak pulled. Tight against the wind, they had tracked the signal from the Chip Hera mining world, forgotten by most, ruled by whoever had the most guns. The local market looked like a battlefield already. Broken stalls, armed guards at every corner, children with hollow eyes watching from shadows. Sahira's breath caught in her throat. It reminded her too much of her past. Jace walked beside her, his hand never far from his blaster. The survivor we're looking for is in this sector, he said, codename Reef. Supposed to be hiding with a smuggler crew near the older refinery. And if Grathsman found him first? Sahira asked. Jace didn't answer. They reached the refinery at nightfall. It was dark, silent. It's a kind of quiet that only meant one thing: something had already gone wrong. Jace raised 2 fingers and pointed toward the back entrance. Sahira nodded and moved like she had done this all her life fast. Her legs adjusted with perfect balance, her feet barely touching the ground. She felt like a shadow. Inside, they found bodies. 3 of them. Humans, shot through the chest, still clutching weapons. Blood pooled on the floor, already drying in the heat. Sahira knelt beside one. Its hand clutched a badge smuggler crew, just like Villock said. We're too late, she whispered. Maybe not, Jace said. He tapped his scanner. 1 life. Sin, still moving. They followed the signal down a metal staircase into the lower levels. That's when the scream echoed. A young voice, desperate, afraid, sure. Ran, in the main chamber of the basement, a small figure was chained to a wall. Pale skin, metal eyes, 1 arm replaced with a crude cyber limb. He looked no older than 15. Beside him stood a bounty hunter, tall, masked, armored in black. A long rifle rested across his back. Jace raised his weapon. Let him go. The bounty hunter turned slowly. You're the human who stole prototype. 1. Sahira's heart skipped. She has a name, Jace growled. Let the boy go, or I'll show you what I did to the last hunter. Do you mean Grath's brother? The bounty hunter replied calmly. Ow! He screamed. Sahira moved without, thinking she shot first. The blast hit the hunter in the leg, sending him crashing into the wall. Jace rushed forward, pulling the boy free while Sahira covered them, her hand shaking, but not from fear. It's from rage. Are there others with him? She asked. The boy nodded quickly. They took the girl, my sister. They were going to sell. Her auction tomorrow, main market. Oh. Sahira's vision narrowed. Another auction. Another chain. The next morning, the streets of Barrel 5 buzzed with whispers. A rare auction was being held. Special merchandise. High-grade tech. The buyer list included warlords, crime lords, and nobles from dying empires. Sahira walked into the crowd wearing a trader's cloak. No weapons showing, but her eyes burned. Jace followed from a rooftop, rifle in hand, watching. Everything. They saw her almost immediately. The girl was maybe 10. Small, metal spine. Gold wires in her arms. Chained and silent in a clear cage. Her face looked empty, like someone who had already given up. Sahira stepped onto the stage. The auctioneer raised his hand. A rare piece custom mod, perfect condition starting. At 20,000 credits, Sahira threw back her hood. "Here's my offer." Then she shot him. Panic exploded. Guards rushed in. Buyers screamed and fled. Jace opened fire from above, targeting weapons. Not bodies, just like old training taught him. Sahira leapt onto the stage, her legs moving like lightning. She tore the cage open with her bare hands. The girl looked up, blinking slowly. Who are you?" she asked. Sahira smiled, breath heavy. "Someone who knows what it's like to be sold." She lifted the girl into her arms, but the crowd wasn't done. The bounty hunter was back limping, angry and carrying something new. A bomb strapped to his chest. "You can't save them all," he growled. "No," Sahira said, lowering the girl gently. "But I can stop you." She launched forward, using every bit of force in her legs. Her foot hit his chest hard enough to crack bone. He flew backward into the metal frame and the bomb never had time to arm. Jack dropped down beside her. "You all right?" Sahira nodded, holding the girl close. "We've got two now, and one more to find." That night, Sahira sat by the fire outside the old refinery. The girl lay beside her, fast asleep, her head resting in Sahira's lap. Jace handed her a warm drink. "You did good today." "I'm tired," she whispered. "But not done." Jace said, "Not until they're all free." Sahira looked up at the red sky, her heart steady now. Once she had been a broken girl, crawling through dust for parts. Now she was a storm. They landed on Titanus under a gray sky. Thick fog covered the ground like a blanket. Farms stretched for miles, built into metal domes and plastic towers. It looked peaceful, but peace meant nothing when monsters wore quiet faces. Sahira stepped off the shuttle first. The young girl, Cora, followed close, clinging to her cloak. Jace walked beside them, his rifle hidden beneath his coat. The chip they'd taken from Vilox pointed to this place. Sector 8, a farming dome run by a group called Vertex Bioharvest. On the surface it was clean, lawful, and well-managed. But deep below, in the sealed levels, something else lived. "They don't grow crops down there," Jace said, studying his scanner. "They grow parts? Like me?" Sahira asked. He nodded. "The others, they were used to test cyber-biological fusions. You weren't the only prototype, just the first to escape." Sahira felt the weight of it in her chest. She wasn't rare, she wasn't special. She was one of many, but she was alive. That meant something. Inside Dome 8, they walked past workers in green suits. Everyone smiled, too polite, too rehearsed. A man greeted them at the main desk. "Welcome to Vertex. Can we interest you in our fresh nutrient packs?" Sahira forced a smile. "Actually, I'm here about my sister. I believe she was brought here recently for recovery." The man's smile didn't fade. "We've taken many strays. I'll check." He disappeared into the back room, JC whispered. "He's stalling. Stalling for who?" Sahira asked as if in answer. The ceiling lights flickered in. Locked doors slammed down across the exits. A robotic voice echoed. "Unauthorized personnel in recovery wing. Deploy containment." Jace drew his weapon. "It's a trap." Sahira's legs kicked into motion. They sprinted through the sterile halls, dodging gas vents and drones. Sahira's memory kicked in. This place wasn't just a lab. It was a prison. They found the recovery wing underground. Behind the glass, more children. Half machine, half child. One girl had clear tubes running down her spine. Another had silver wings bolted to her back. A third, just a boy, sat in a corner, humming to himself with eyes that glowed like stars. Sahira slammed her hand against the door. "Open it." Jace plugged into the system. Encrypted. "We don't have time." Footsteps echoed behind them. Sahira turned and froze. Grath stood in the hallway. Not a screen, not a message. In person, he looked older, worn. His jaw was still steel. But now she saw it clearly. He wasn't just a commander. He was a collector. "You came far," he said. I never thought you'd survive long enough to remember, Sahira clenched her fists. You used us like machines. I built you. He replied calmly. You wouldn't be alive without me. Your legs, your strength, your survival, it all came from me. I never asked for it, she said. And I don't need you anymore. Grath smiled faintly. You really believe that? He raised a small remote. I still control every circuit inside you. You think those legs belong to you? They don't. One command and you'll drop. Sahira's breath caught. She looked down. Her legs began to tremble. Jace yelled, Fight it. He's bluffing. No, Sahira whispered. He's not. Grath pressed the button. Pain shot through her body. Her knees buckled. Sparks flew. Her vision blurred. See? Grath said. You were made to follow. Even now, you're still mine. Sahira Felden caught herself, her eyes lit with fury. She reached down and ripped the control chip out of her leg. Screaming, she threw it to the floor, sparks flying from her palms. I belong to me, she growled, and then she charged. Jace opened the containment door just as Sahira tackled Grath. They crashed through the wall, fists flying. He struck hard, but she struck harder. Her body wasn't just metal. It was memory. Rage. While around them, alarms blared. Children ran from the cells led by Cora and Jace. They fled into the open air, into the fog, into freedom. Sahira pinned Grath to the floor. This ends now. Grath gasped, laughing even with blood in his mouth. You think saving a few broken toys will fix what you are? I'm not broken, she said. You are. And then she left him alive. Barely and ran. Outside, the shuttle waited. Dozens of rescued kids piled aboard. Sahira looked. Back one last time at the dome. Smoke rose from its base. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She simply whispered, 1. More to go. Jace placed a hand on her shoulder. And then I rebuild, she said. Not just myself. All of us. The old ship rattled as it dropped out of orbit. They were near the ruins of Crixa Station, a forgotten trade hub that hadn't lit up in years. It floated like a tomb above a dead planet. Cold, silent, abandoned by time, or so the records claimed. But Sahira knew better now. She felt it the moment they drew close. The station wasn't dead. It was hiding, and somewhere inside the last one waited. Jace brought the ship around slowly. They docked at an old side bay, rusted shut and sealed from the inside. He cracked the code manually, cutting through wires as Sahira kept watch. The children they'd saved, 12 now, stayed aboard the shuttle with Cora. The youngest ones still didn't speak. Some didn't remember their own names. Sahira had promised them something more than freedom. She had promised a future. Inside the station, dust floated like snow in the dark. The walls creaked with every step. Sahira's boots echoed her legs. Humming softly, ready for anything. They followed faint heat signature's footsteps. It's just hours old, until they reached a circular chamber. At its center was a girl, not a child. She was older, late teens, maybe taller than Sahira, with deep red skin and glowing circuitry along her arms. Her eyes were dim but alive. She stood in a containment ring, hands bound in glowing cuffs. She didn't turn when they entered. You're late, she said. Sahira stepped closer. You're the last. Name. I don't use one anymore. Not because names belong to people. I stopped being a person the day they bolted steel into my spine. Jace moved toward the control panel. We're here to get you out. I don't want out, the girl said. Sir paused. What? I stayed here on purpose. I've been tracking Grath's network. I'm the reason you found the others. I leaked the locations. Sahira's eyes widened. That was you? The girl nodded slowly. Couldn't fight them directly. But I could guide someone who could. Jace disabled the ring. The cuffs fell. The girl stepped forward. I heard stories about you. The prototype who survived. I always thought you were a myth. I was a ghost, Sahira said. But I came. Back. The girl reached out. Then take us home. As they returned to the shuttle, something exploded behind them. The far side of the station was gone, ripped open by a blast. A message played across their ship's cracked screen. Sahira. Still running? Let's finish this. Grath's voice. Outside in orbit, a dark warship emerged from the shadows. Sleek, armored, massive, its name glowed in red. The Overseer Sar turned to Jace. You told me once those legs you built, they weren't just made to walk? Jace nodded. They were made to run, climb, and fight. Then it's time. They launched into battle. Jace piloted the shuttle through enemy fire, diving and twisting. While Sahira and the red-skinned girl, now called Rev, worked together, Azahara launched through the airlock, landed on the Overseer's hull, and cut her way in. She fought her way down the halls, one by one, floor by floor. Her legs absorbed shock, delivered powerful kicks, sprinted faster than any soldier. Grath was waiting in the control core. This time, armored. Ready? You never learn, he said. You were made to obey. I wasn't made, she replied. I survived. They clashed, sparks, screams. The ship shook with their battle. Sahira's blade met his metal fists. Her strength wasn't just in her body, it was in every memory of pain. Every child she saved, every time someone said, "You're not enough," she drove him backward. Nice. Step by step, Grath raised his blade, charging one final strike. Sahira whispered, "You're not my maker," and drove her blade through his chest. Grath fell and didn't get back up. Outside, the warship began to fall apart. Jace picked her up just as the hull gave in. Rev flew the shuttle, dodging fire and hauling the survivors to safety. Behind them, the Overseer collapsed into the atmosphere, burning bright like a star that wasn't meant to last. Hours later, in a quiet meadow on a human colony, Sahira sat by a tree. The kids were running through the grass laughing, alive. She leaned back, legs stretched in front of her, scarred, shining. In her own, Jace walked over and sat beside her. "I don't know what comes next," she said. "You build it," he replied. "One piece at a time." She smiled faintly. "Do you remember the first thing I said to you?" she asked. He nodded. "You offered to trade your body for legs, and you said," he smiled, "you're not for sale." Asterisk, she was once a broken machine, crawling through dirt. Now, she was the spark that lit a new future for all of them.